Hello and welcome to the Trending Now podcast for this Friday, May 4, 2024. I'm Louie Butko, and thank you for joining us as we recap the week that was on Trending Now, which you can catch every Monday to Friday, 7 p.m. and 11:30 on CHCH, CHCH.com, and on our Trending Now YouTube page. Coming up on today's show. After 4 long weeks of testimony, the defense and prosecution rest their case in former U.S. President Donald Trump's hush money trial. What comes next, and which Trump rival bent the knee and kissed the ring just months after a blistering campaign? Well, all of them. But Nicole Martin joins us to let us know the latest coming up. Apple Music releases their top list of the 100 albums of all time. We break down that list with our in-house entertainment expert and Trending Now producer Laura Sebben, and we'll talk some House of Commons drama with Manesa Dhanabalan as well. And that's all coming up on today's show. But we start with Nicole Martin, host of Trending Now. And Nicole, you were off on Wednesday.
Yeah, and you were in.
I was in. I always love filling in for you because it gives me like a good perspective on just the chaoticness of a regular person's day here.
Because my day was chaos at home. I didn't get out of it. My daughter fell on my head-to-head collision. Oh. She was okay, but I was not so okay. I wanted to stay off the screens for at least a day to recover.
Lights are pretty bright in here, too. My little sensitivity to that. You little noggin? Little bump on your noggin?
Yeah, like obviously my daughter Mia's head's a lot harder than mine. It's a lot stronger. I need to work on that. I don't know how, but
I've been, so Mia's 16 months, 17 months? 16 months, yeah, because I have a nephew about the same age. Born around the same time, beginning of January. It's amazing just how much they grow and just like they don't know their own strength. And
so she knows so much too. How this happened, she stood up on our bed and I was like, Mia, and she immediately she was smiling, thinking she was being funny, and then crashed down onto my head. Yeah.
Louie brought her in a couple weeks ago before Mother's Day. She's moving.
So quick
she's
now.
Moving. It was like they don't stop because that's the thing with Levi is once he starts moving, it's you got to be
done. We've safety proofed everything. Everything. You have to have gates everywhere.
Like, on your bum. On your bum. That's like the number one thing said in that house is on your bum, because he'll climb up and he'll look so confident on what he's about to do. On your bum.
On your bum. I know. You can't leave them alone. You can't.
We're glad you're here, and we're glad that you were here Monday, Tuesday, because that is when finally we've reached the end of the testimony, the Donald Trump hush money trial. I'm not going to be tired of not talking about this.
No, it was so interesting that you've got like 20 witnesses that the prosecution went through, the defense 2. So that was like just a couple of days.
Yeah, and so let's talk about Michael Cohen. Obviously, some bombastic stuff happening on Monday. Basically, I stole from the Trump organization. That was a pretty big moment. A lot of legal analysts are like, that might be a bigger crime than what Trump's accused of here.
At least he admitted it. I don't know whether he gave the money back. It was kind of an interesting thing too. I guess he was expecting a bigger bonus around the Christmas period. He didn't get it. I think he was supposed to get 150, but he only got 50. Yeah. So then he claimed that there were some other tech expenses or paying expenses for the campaign, and then overcharged. And only pocketed the rest.
It's worth pointing out that like Alan Weisselberg, the CFO, is currently serving time in Rikers, right, for lying on the stand and all that stuff. So like this isn't and by the way, they've also been fined $500 million in New York. They're not allowed to open businesses. That's on appeal. That's that civil trial. Like it's not a stand-up organization we're talking about over here.
No, it absolutely is not. No, it is not.
Let's talk about Robert Costello. One of the people that the defense called. What happened with this guy?
So he was the star defense witness of the 2, for sure. So he had either represented Cohen or there were talks of him representing him. So they would have had some conversations. So Robert Costello, before he even took the stand, there were a lot of questions from the prosecution and the defense to the judge of what they can and can't ask him because they don't want to implicate anything for the jury. But it was almost every question the defense was asking of him about conversations he had with Michael Cohen, where he claimed Cohen said that Trump never knew about the Stormy Daniels deal. So there were all these objections and it got so fiery. And then out of nowhere, you have Bob Costello, who's a lawyer who should probably know better. He's saying, like, Jesus. He's saying, like ridiculous. Yeah. He was just complaining, sighing all the time on the stand. And so it was the first time in the trial that. And then he starts staring down Judge Merchan. Yeah. So they're making this, like, he had a stare. He's just like, are you staring at me right now? And then the jury had already left at that point, but he kicked everyone else.
Not even and the media was pretty pissed about it. They're like, we should be able to see this. I want to know what's
going on. Absolutely. I want to hear what the judge is saying to Costello right now.
We never knew. We will never find out, I guess, unless
he came back and things were all right. Things were okay.
That's what I'm going to start doing when people are, like, boring me and my newsmakers. Wow. Jeez. Ridiculous. So what comes next now? Defense is rested. Prosecution is rested.
Yep. Closing arguments. This is it. So I was talking to a Harvard professor throughout this trial, and he's so interesting. He's actually a defense attorney who had represented Harvey Weinstein at one point, too. He doesn't like to talk about that, obviously, now. But when we were talking about this, he said the most crucial part of the trial from the evidence that they've looked at is the opening and the closing. It's what you present at the beginning and the end. And so they're going to come out strong. They've had all this time now to prepare. So on Tuesday, they will come in and rest their case with their closing arguments. And then it'll be the judge instructing the jury on how they go about deliberating this.
And that is a huge part of this, right? I've been reading that a lot of appeals, a lot of cases that are overturned or sent back usually happen on the judge's instructions to the jury.
It is. So already Trump's defense, they have a few ways that they could launch an appeal potentially with this case. And I mean, we talked, Stormy Daniels was like a massive one there. But yes, so the instruction to the jury will be crucial. It will be huge. Even after the defense wrapped early in the morning earlier in the week. What day was that? Monday, Tuesday?
Monday.
Oh my God. We were just saying this week feels like 3 weeks in one. I'm like, what day was that again?
We had that awesome barbecue.
Monday.
Great barbecue on Monday. Yeah.
So even after they rest their case in the morning, the entire afternoon and like into 5-6 o'clock hour, they were still going through how the instruction should be made, because the prosecution and the defense also weigh in on that and tell the judge what they think.
By the way, in the midst of all of this, Donald Trump is in the middle of running for president. It's going to be him and Joe Biden again. Nikki Haley became the latest person this week who has said terrible things about Donald Trump, who has had terrible things said to her. But this week she decided to endorse him, kiss the ring. I'll be voting for Joe Biden. I'll be voting for Donald Trump.
I'm just so sad about it, just personally, on a personal note. I mean, what? The things that she has said, we covered it too when they were the only two standing in the primary for the Republican nomination. The amount of cruel things that he has said to her, racist things, questioning whether she's an American, making fun of her name, her husband, who's actually in the military. Like, he went so low, and she called him too on not even just his rudeness, but his mental capacity. Like some of the things he was saying, he was talking about her being, I think we talked about this too, that she was somehow in the United States in Washington, D.C. during the insurrection, when it was actually, he was meaning Pelosi, not Nikki Haley. Like, he was getting confused.
That was like the glitch. That was the glitch, right? He had to say Haley, Nikki Haley.
So she's saying all these things, but essentially her first speech back, her first public appearance since saying she's going to drop out of the race, she's endorsing him. She says she will vote for Trump. She still has concerns, but he is the better option of the two. That's her stance.
This is what she said. She said, you got to acknowledge the fact he can't win a general election.
Yes.
And so Biden, obviously the Biden campaign is going to go after people who voted for Nikki Haley, who, despite dropping out of the race months ago, was still getting close to 21% in Indiana. Despite the fact she wasn't campaigning, her name was still on the ballot, yes, but those people made an effort to go out and send a message that they will not be voting for Donald Trump. So that's 21% of people in Indiana.
Some of these counties, some of these districts have been mega country before. So the fact that she was getting 21, 25% of the vote, and she's not even running. anymore. So it's funny that her name's still on the ballot. I didn't realize that as a Canadian, that this is how they're still doing it. I'm like, okay. So people are still picking her over him.
Yeah, they're looking down at their ballot.
Yeah, they're like, I don't want him.
You mentioned 25% in 2 counties just outside Philadelphia. Pennsylvania, a huge swing state. This campaign, pretty nuts. But I mean, the precedent has been set for this because we had a lot of people supporting Trump. We've talked about that too. The Red Tie Brigade that's been out, kind of going around the gag order by them going out, including Mike Johnson, the U.S. Speaker of the House. But then you had like Ted Cruz, who was on with Caitlin Collins, who's saying, you know what? I don't know. I'm not sure if I can certify the election results no matter who wins.
He just would not say yes or no. He keeps saying there's election voter fraud. There's voter fraud. Are you denying there's voter fraud? It's like, yes, there can be voter fraud. Of course, they have that within their constitution to investigate that. Yeah. But we know from 2020 and all the investigations that there was no significant voter fraud that would ever overturn the results of an election. Look at what the situation in Canada too with foreign interference. Yeah. There was foreign interference, but not enough to overturn the election result. That's what their situation is.
And it was judge after judge. Yes. It was state after state. It was
Georgia. You had like a Republican saying no, like there is no voter fraud.
I believe is going to vote for Donald Trump regardless of all that stuff happening. That's what I don't get. And like people are like, well, it's culty, like it's cult-like almost. Just this.
It's like party
this
and nothing else.
To dear leader, like to Donald Trump, that he can do no wrong. And I guess that's the part that we're like just listen to what he says. Like if you just listen to the words, they sound scary. Like sometimes.
I'm like, are they just also scared of him? Are all
it's something,
of
I guess
these
it's something
Republicans
close to power,
scared?
Though. I think it's got to be something to do with being that close to power and being.
And you have to think about the United States too. One of, if not, they claim they are the most powerful country in the world. So to then have that standing and be in that party of having all of that power, the lobbying, like there's so much behind the scenes that.
And then there's the other aspect to all this. There's the Russia-Ukraine war that's still ongoing. And then Trump has said that he could end it in a day. He said he can end the Gaza war in one day, which we're getting into.
Love to see it, Trump. Love to see it.
Big plans for the weekend. Taking it easy?
What am I doing? Taking it easy. Taking it easy.
Yes.
That's exactly it. Probably going outside. That's
I think after your midweek adventure, taking it easy might be just what the doctor prescribed. Thanks a lot, Nicole.
Thanks, Louie.
We'll see you at the show. We'll see you. I got some sports to talk about, so we'll talk to you about that.
See you soon.
All right. Coming up, we'll be joined by Manesa Dhanabalan. We'll also be joined by Laura Sebben. We'll talk about the latest in Israel and Palestine with her. We'll also talk about the top 100 albums of all time as decided by Apple, because when Apple says something, it's true. International trending news this week. Britain's political leaders are crossing the country on the first day of a 6-week election campaign that kicked off this week. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's Conservative Party trying to prove wrong a widespread sense that it will be ousted from power. Voters will decide on July 4th whether to end the governing Conservatives' 14 years in power and hand the opposition Labour Party the reins of government. It's a risky move at a time when a wide array of polls suggest that the main opposition Labour Party is ahead of the Conservatives, who have been in power since 2010. In fact, a poll out since the announcement says the Labour Party has a 17 percentage point lead over the Conservatives. The poll was conducted by a more incompetent member of the British Polling Council, but 44% of support went to the Labours, just 27% for the Conservatives. Manesa Dhanabalan was covering this story. This was a bit of a surprise to see that this election was called. He's not very popular right now, is he?
No, he isn't. Not even in his own party, actually. They weren't too happy about it either. But the thing is, like, some of the people, like, he didn't really have a choice, right? Because he needs to call an election at some point. And because of, like, some of the inflation data that they got, they were like, okay, maybe this is the time to jump on it because inflation cooled down, I think the first time in 3 years, something like that. So
we're all over the inflation stuff. You had the Canadian inflation numbers. Yeah, this tying into this story.
Yeah.
And also, he's apparently it's the element of surprise because the Labour Party told that they said that the staff could take a holidays in July as they didn't didn't think that there was going to be a summer vacation. So it was like they said yes to vacation, and so that's why another reason why Sunak. It'll be the UK's first July vote since 1945 because they don't normally have elections in the middle of the summer.
Yeah, and like the thing is, like he's been in office since 2022, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and the thing is, like he wasn't, correct me if I'm wrong, he wasn't even elected. It was because
he was already, his party was already in power, right? So this is his first campaign as prime minister. Of course, Sunak became prime minister, it said, October 2022. The first British leader of color, the first Hindu to become prime minister, and at 42 was the youngest leader for more than 200 years. But he was also Treasury before Prime Minister. That's one story. You really had everything really connected with you this week.
Inflation, Parliament, election.
The British Parliament. Let's talk about the Canadian Parliament. So what was it that Chrystia Freeland, the Deputy Prime Minister, had to withdraw and apologize for? What'd she say?
Well, she said Pierre Poilievre is wearing more makeup than she is.
Well, okay, so
she
what was the
right
lead
away,
up? What was the lead up to it though? What did he make a comment about her makeup?
No, so basically they were talking about drug legalization. And basically she said that, and then what she I guess was intending to say is to call him a phony about how much he cares about policy and stuff and drug legalization in Canada.
You're either in politics right now in Canada, you're either a wacko or a phony. Those are the two things you can be, right?
I mean, those are the words that are being thrown in Parliament.
Parliament, that's what we can call each other then. You're wacko and phonies. And it also came at a time where this Fergus stuff, like the Conservatives have continually gone after the Speaker of the House, Fergus. What was it for this time? What did they not like?
This time it was now an event, like a summer barbecue event, where they actually at first it was taking, I don't remember the words, but it was saying something about Pierre Poilievre. It was in my script. I don't remember it. But about how his policies are something.
Because he's supposed to be impartial. That's basically what they're arguing,
exactly.
Right? So he has shown up in Liberal, like there was the Ontario John Fraser, there was a video.
Yep.
He was the Ontario interim Liberal leader before Bonnie Crombie. So he was wearing his full speaker's robes.
Yep.
They thought that was unprofessional. I believe he did apologize for that. Other things like campaign stuff. This is sort of what he's supposed to be impartial. Like once you take this job, you're not just another MPP. You're not you're supposed to be the keeper of the peace.
In this case, though, his office said that it was done out, they didn't approve that message.
Okay.
It was kind of done without them knowing, and the Liberal Party actually apologized because they took responsibility for it. It was their fault. But then now the Conservatives are resign.
Yeah.
You shouldn't even do this anymore because now you're always this is now not the first time that you're showing ties to the party and stuff, but that wasn't Fergus's fault.
Well, and I mean, that's the other thing. All these cabinet positions, we were talking U.S. politics, obviously, at the start with Nicole, but Justin Trudeau is still an MPP for some riding in Quebec, right? This Fergus guy is still an MPP. He still needs to be elected to have that job. So, you have to have some sort of campaigning, it feels.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I feel like everybody wants to be mad about everything all the time, always now.
I mean, they need someone to point at and say stuff. So, it's going to
I think it was the Sun this week that just, I'm kind of, in a nice, just chillax mood right now.
Oh, that's nice.
I think the sun has helped, but it's also this week has been this week has gone by very slowly. Do you not feel that?
Actually, for me, it's been kind of fast. It's been the opposite.
Well, you've been pretty busy. Your coming to work time is your peaceful time.
Yeah, it is actually. Apart from all the chaos at home. So I moved.
We haven't had you on the show in a while.
Yeah.
You bought your first piece of property.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes. So how has that been going? I know there's been a lot of work involved in that.
A little too much work. Every time we do something and then we're okay, we're done. We can relax now. And then we go to do something. I went to go cook the other day and then I realized I didn't have a blender. And then I had to literally blend things manually with my hands. That was not fun. So.
Just the little things. We were talking about this. Dollarama. Surprisingly a great store to pick up things for around the house.
Yep. Dollarama. And one of our digital lead, Amanda Destros.
There you go.
Almost Destros. I think
Destro,
yes,
go.
Destro. Thank you. She actually helped me with my dishwasher. Dish rack, because I actually couldn't find one. I went to so many stores, Louie. I couldn't find a proper dish rack that actually fit, because it's a very small place.
Yeah.
So finally, she recommended one, and it's literally the perfect one. So thank you for that.
When was the last time you didn't have a dishwasher, though?
I never had a
You
dishwasher
never had a
growing
dishwasher?
up.
Okay,
Yeah, my parents' house does not have
Really?
it. So having a dishwasher is like...
You have one now?
Yes, I have one
what?
now.
I was going to say, because I didn't think you had a dishwasher. I thought you went from no dishwasher life to dishwasher. Wow.
And then the dish rack became the problem for me. So.
Wow. Well, congratulations.
Nice.
How are you enjoying the sunshine this weekend?
It has been, this weekend, I have to work. And then I have a bridal shower that I'm going to on Sunday, so that's going to be fun.
Oh, that is fun.
What's your plans for the weekend?
You know what? I think I'm just going to enjoy the sunshine. I think there might be a patio in my future. And the Hamilton Tiger Cats play a preseason game tomorrow, so I might go to that.
Oh,
There were some
nice.
tickets going around, but I might just flash my media pass and be like, I work for CH. Yeah, let me in.
Will
let
that
me
work?
in. Yeah, usually.
Okay.
Yeah, it usually works for me. I don't know. Maybe
For
they'll
you,
stop me
so-
this year. Maybe they'll stop me this year.
They'll
I don't know.
probably hear it now, and then they'll be like, no.
Yeah. They are one of the dozens who listens to the show. So I think we'll be okay. Thanks for doing this. Enjoy your weekend
Thank you.
and
You
get back
too.
to work. All right, my thanks to Manesa Dhanabalan for joining me. Still ahead, Laura Sebben going to be by. We'll get her thoughts on Apple's top 100 greatest albums. They call it their definitive list of the greatest albums ever made. We'll go into some of the rationale. We'll also get the latest. It's been a busy week in the war in Gaza. There's been international court rulings. We've seen 3 European countries call for a Palestinian state. So lots to get to on that. And Laura Sebben will be by in just a bit. Trending news in the world of sports here in Canada. Toronto has been awarded the WNBA's first franchise outside the United States, with the expansion team set to begin play in 2026. Now, the team will be owned by Larry Tannenbaum-led Kilmer Sports Ventures. Tannenbaum is also the chairman and a minority owner of Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, which of course owns several sports franchises in Toronto, including the Raptors and Maple Leafs. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was there, along with WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert, Ontario Premier Doug Ford, and Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow. The team will play at the 8,700-seat Coca-Cola Coliseum. They'll occasionally move to Scotiabank Arena, and Tannenbaum says the team will play some games in Vancouver and Montreal. A report released last month by Canadian Women in Sports found 2 in 3 Canadians between the ages of 13 and 65 consider themselves to be fans of women's sports. And last year's version of that report said the Canadian professional women's sport market is significantly underdeveloped compared to its potential, with an estimated value of $150 to $200 million. The WNBA has already dipped its toes in Canadian waters. Toronto hosted a sold-out preseason game at Scotiabank Arena last year, and Edmonton's Roger Place held one this month. So that's pretty cool, Laura Sebben.
I think so.
WNBA coming to Toronto. It's about damn time.
I think so.
As my girl Lizzo would say.
Yeah.
It's about damn... Wait, are we... Is Lizzo canceled, or is she...
She's
She's
in
being Lizzo?
like the middle.
Did she make the top 100 Apple album artists?
I don't think so.
Wow, okay. Well, you don't think so.
Well, I like her music, but I don't think it's top 100.
Top 10. What did you make of the top 10? The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, a bit of a wild card. Obviously, that album universally acclaimed. I think it did win a bunch of Grammys at the time. But what'd you make of that decision for number 1?
I don't really get it. I like it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess you would obviously have a different relationship with it probably if you were a black person, I would assume, because that was kind of what the commentary coming from it was that it really spoke to the black experience. And I know part of the reason why they named it number 1 was because I guess the themes in it and also just the way the music sounded has remained timeless. You could make an album like that today and it would still be a hit.
I thought the clip that you had in your pack, from the group, the round table that kind of debated this and put the list together, was that perfect blend of R&B and this soft rock sound that she just managed to find. Really good album, but little surprise Beatles weren't number one. Beatles weren't
I was talking, they were third, but I was talking to our graphics guy, Bill.
Yeah,
and I was Bill. Like, I don't really get the choice for it to be Abbey Road, because there's only really like 4 songs on there that bangers? I feel like stick out in the Beatles discography. But he said, like, from a music point of view, like that's like a musician's favorite Beatles album.
Okay.
So I was gonna say, from a listener point of view, like I wouldn't have picked that one, because there's other ones where I feel like have like so much more like monumental.
Yeah, I agree.
Songs, right?
Well, it's funny because like I was putting together the tease for it, or the headlines at the top of the show. I ended up going with Thriller. Because I didn't want to give it away. I didn't want to give a number one away.
I think that was the one that most people anticipated would be number one, though, because usually that is the one on most lists that
is at the top of the list. So I went with Thriller because I did the same thing. I was going through Abbey Road being like, oh, there's not that many like Beatles bangers on this one. I think even in our pack, I think we used like something.
Because there wasn't a music video for any other one. So I'm like, I have nothing. What am I going to put up here?
Yeah.
You know, but.
Your girl, Queen Bee. One of only a couple of acts, I believe, to have 2 albums inside the top 100.
Lemonade made it into the top 10 with the 10th spot, which makes sense.
Again,
I understand.
I really did like the pack, because it was just like that little in between, right? Like you got the little 10 second. I love the song choice. He Don't Love You Like I. What's that
Hold
song?
Up. It's
Hold
called.
Up.
Yeah,
Is the song.
It's the iconic one for any listeners, where she's in her yellow dress.
Yes. What do you think about like Apple deciding that this is the list? Like Rolling Stones has done this. Like these lists have come around.
So this is just their first time doing it. Like Apple Music has never put out a list like this before, so they were like, this is our inaugural best of list.
Yeah.
They used internal people and they used external people. Streaming numbers were not a factor, which I thought was interesting, because I thought they might use that as like a notch on the list.
Which is fine. I have no problem with it. But like when you go to click it,
it's just radio.
But but you go to click it, and then it brought me to like a website that I had to log into, and it was just a big pain in the butt.
Yeah.
And I like Apple Music. Like I'm Apple Music over Spotify. Like that's me.
Me too.
That's a controversial opinion. That is a surprisingly controversial opinion.
The reasoning I always give is that I've had some version of an iPod my whole life.
Yeah.
So you build your music library on iTunes. So when they finally dropped Apple Music, all my music was in the Apple Music app, because that's where it had always been. I was like, I'm not trying to.
You were in iTunes. You were legal music. You were legal like iTunes 99 cents per song.
You used iTunes for the LimeWire and FrostWire downloads. That's what you used iTunes for. But yeah, that was where I built my music library before streaming became a thing. And then when streaming became a thing, I would just add to it. Like I never understood let me move over to Spotify and rebuild my like 10 years of music I've been collecting.
You've shown me the family party playlist. What is the length of that playlist?
Currently, I think
it's like days, is it not?
Yeah, I think it's like 70 something hours.
You take it very seriously.
I do take it very seriously.
Very, very seriously.
We're music lovers in the Sebben household. So you need to make sure you have a good genre, like range, decade, and all that when we have our parties. Otherwise it becomes a problem.
I hate to shift gears from something obviously so light to something so serious, but
before we shift gears, though, I do have to say, coming in number 4 is one of my personal favorite albums, which is Purple Rain by Prince and the Revolution.
Yeah, that song's iconic too. Again, great use of it in the pack, I would say. On Wednesday, always nice to tag in for Nicole. But
nice
let's talk about, there was some Israel, Palestine news. The news on Wednesday was that you had 3 countries, Spain, Norway, and Ireland, deciding that they will join the already 140 out of 190 UN member countries that want statehood for Palestine. The Western countries, there's still a lot of pushback. France might be leaning towards that way, but just how significant did you think Wednesday's news was?
I thought it was pretty significant, and we spoke to an international human rights lawyer about it as well, and he said it's just another way for Palestine to move forward. And what a lot of people don't know is that Palestine has figures who are not connected to Hamas, who have trying to install government in Palestine in like the correct way, the Western way,
PA,
I guess you would say.
The Palestinian Authority.
Yeah. So they've been trying to like install a proper government in Palestine for ages, and just have not been succeeding because of pushback from other Middle Eastern countries, pushback from the Western world, pushback from Israel, of course. And yeah, I think this is a step forward in recognizing that even outside of a government point of view, once Israel decides they're done doing what they're doing, people are going to have to help rebuild Gaza. So having more countries recognizing you as a state means you'll have more availability to resources and just hopefully a better chance to put Palestine back to where it was.
Which is, I mean, what Americans were saying at the very beginning. They said, yes, October 7th was a horrible day that will live in infamy. What, Hamas
As
did.
it should.
There's no, but just like 9/11, where everybody agrees that was a horrible day, the U.S. made some poor decisions afterwards, right? In the way, and there's a lot of regret about the way they went into Afghanistan and how long they were there and how they didn't have a plan. And they've been saying that since day one. Like, what is Netanyahu's eventual plan? You need to have a plan.
Exactly.
Also, we had the Associated Press camera being taken down.
Yeah, that's the second time they've impeded on press reporting on what's happening.
They did put it back up, though, I believe, right? This is looking into Rafah. And then the news today, the international courts in The Hague, the Netherlands there. What did they say? What's the news out of that today?
So South Africa had come forward and asked the ICJ, the International Court of Justice, to look into whether Israel was committing genocide in Gaza or not. And they did not say explicitly that they are committing genocide, but the court came out and said, like, under the Genocide Convention, what's happening in Rafah you need to hold until you can figure out a better way to move forward with your objectives. They didn't call for an all-out ceasefire. They didn't directly classify and say what you're doing is genocide. They just kind of said it's getting there, so you need to put a hold on this until you can give us a better
of aid, right? It's not just what they're doing there, but it's the way they're going about it. They're getting close to famine status in Rafah, where the majority of people, Palestinians, have located.
Yeah, and this wasn't the first international court to come down on Israel this week. The International Criminal Court, I believe, issued arrest warrants against Israeli leaders and Hamas leaders, both for their parts. Hamas directly with what they did on October 7th, and following with the hostages and some of the stories about that, and then Israel for what they have been doing in Gaza. So these are big. Most of these things are just symbolic. I think the ICJ one is a slightly bigger deal than the ICC one because Israel subscribes to the to the Genocide Convention. They are in that, however you would describe that.
Yeah.
So they will produce a report for the ICJ in about a month's time to say, like, okay, here's what we're doing in Rafah. Here's how we're avoiding genocide in Rafah, because they have done that before. But they're not going to hold what they're doing. They're mostly symbolic rulings. They still matter, but they are mostly just simply symbolic.
You got a new haircut this week. A new haircut, or just styled differently? A new hairdo. So you didn't get it cut?
I did get it cut.
Okay. All right. It looks good. What was the decision to straighten it out?
So it was just time for me to color it and cut it, as I do every 2 months. But I have some things I'm doing this weekend, and my hair, for those who don't watch the podcast, is very curly, and it only responds to a select few products to like stay nice and pretty. And my hairdresser does not have those products, so I'm not usually the biggest fan of the way my hair dries after I get it cut and colored. But I knew I had plans this weekend. I don't know if you're aware, Louie, when you color your hair, you're not supposed to wash it for a few days so that the color can hold and grip.
I'll take your word on
hair.
that. Yep.
It's true.
All right.
So I didn't want to wash it and rinse the color out right away. So I asked my hairdresser to straighten it, and I do not like the time that it takes to straighten my hair, so I never straighten it myself. So this is a big deal for everybody to see.
It is. I mean, it made the podcast. Well, thanks for doing this. Enjoy your hairdo and your weekend. Looks like a lot of fun.
Thank you. All
right. Thanks to Laura Sebben for joining me today. My thanks to you as well, because we could not do the show without your support. Hey, make sure, if you're not already, you're following all of the Trending Now various social media channels. You can do that by going to @TrendingNowCHCH on X, on YouTube, or on TikTok. And while you're busy liking and subscribing and scrolling, well, hey, why don't you like and subscribe to this show and all the other shows we have for you on the CHCH podcast page, including Newsmakers. That's the other show I host here on CHCH Podcast. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button, or you can go to chch.com/podcast. Thanks to Mike Corsten for directing today's show. Really appreciate it, Mike. And one more time, thank you for joining us. From all of us here at CHCH, I'm Louie Butko. Have a great weekend.